In the next few movies, I'm going to talk about document construction. So we're going to move to a more macro view here and talk about how the document is set up in terms of margins, layout grid, possibly a baseline grid, and how all those things can work together. Beginning with the margins. Now, the margins, of course, are determined when we create a new document. And because of that, because we are kind of forced into making this decision early on, right at the beginning of our design process, it's often a design decision that doesn't get as much consideration as it is perhaps due. So I want to just make the point that margins are important and there are different approaches one can take. So you might have equal margins, or you might establish your margins with a ratio beginning with the inside margin, and this is assuming a facing pages spread. So the inside margin, then moving to the top, the head, the outside, and then to the bottom or foot. Depending on how the document will be printed, perhaps you want wider inner margins to allow for the binding of the book. Or depending on the nature of the content, perhaps you want wider outer margins, possibly even for your reader to make notes in those margins. If you're going to put a running header and page number at the top of the page, then you probably want a larger top margin. Or if you're going to have a footer running at the bottom of the page, then a bigger bottom margin. And if you have the space, maybe you want luxury margins, possibly symmetrical or possibly asymmetrical. So as I said, we're forced into making the decision about margins early on, but there is an alternative approach you can take. I just want to point this out. Here I'm working in a document that has 0 margins, but I'm determining the location of my main text frames on the page according to a layout grid. And there might be some experimentation in finding the right position on the page for my text frames. But once I've found it, I can do this. I can select the right-hand frame. This is assuming that I'm working with a facing pages spread, and then come to my scripts panel. And on my scripts panel, in the community folder, you will see a script, snap margins to text frame. I'll double click on that. We get this warning message. Margins will be adjusted to match the selected text frame throughout the document, including master pages, i.e. parent pages. Do you want to continue? So what's happened now is if I return to my parent page, we can see that the margins have been created according to the dimensions of my text frame. So that's an alternative approach to setting your margins.